Here we go, episode 16 of the College Football Payoff podcast. It is our second half of bowl games for the bowl season. So far, as a collective podcast, we are, 6-3?
Yep, 6-3 over bowl season.
6-3 is not a bad mark to be at. And today we have the second half, so it's about 11 games I think we have?
Yep, games from New Year's Eve all the way to the 2nd.
Right, so we got 11 games, and that includes our college football playoff semifinal games. We are going to have just a short little episode to close the season, talking like really in depth on the national championship, and that'll close out the college football season. But I do want to say, with the first half of the bowl games, that Liberty Coastal game, Liberty trying to take a knee at the 1 yard line to kill the clock as long as they possibly could. I was really praying that Coastal would have won it in overtime just to stick it to Liberty for doing that, because you take a touchdown when you can get a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree with it. That guy getting stripped was a nightmare scenario for them. But they ended up winning. Life went back to normal for him. Hugh Freeze doesn't have to cut him.
Yeah, that's true.
Hugh Freeze won't even be at Liberty this time next year. So, I was watching that game on the flight back from Florida, and man, it was a nice flight to be on.
It was a fun game.
Shout out to JetBlue for the free TV.
There you go.
So,
let's get games. A sponsorship from JetBlue, huh?
JetBlue also fly me to the college football playoff.
There it is. All right. Let's stop messing around then. Let's just jump right into these bowl games, because that's why everyone's here. Big Country, why don't you start us off?
All right. I'm going to take it to the first bowl game, the Offer Pad Arizona Bowl. That'll be Ball State versus San Jose State. Over under 64. San Jose State favored by 9.5 points. Kickoff at 2 p.m. on December 31st out of Tucson, Arizona. So far this season, Ball State is 6-1. They're 4-3 against the spread. And as we all know, they're the MAC champions after upsetting a pretty powerful Buffalo team. Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then San Jose State, on the other hand, is 7-0 this year. First undefeated season in their program history. 6-0-1 against the spread, so they've been pretty undervalued in the eyes of Vegas all year. They've caught a lot of people by surprise. I thought they were a great team last year, and they had Jordan Love at quarterback. And this year they pretty much knocked my socks off. And I rode them a couple times, cashed in a couple units with them, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So their smallest margin of victory this year has been 10 points, and that was against a pretty good Nevada team. And then San Jose State's defense has been solid all year long. They've only allowed 17 points per game. Ball State, on the other hand, at 6-1. They lost their first game of the season. I remember actually betting on them and watching that quarterback throw that terrible pick in the fourth quarter against Miami of Ohio. But after that, they ended up winning 6 straight, including the MAC championship, and showed signs of improvement all year. But Ball State's schedule just is not impressive to me at all. They battled in a pretty easy MAC schedule all year long. So they had close games against teams like Toledo, teams like NIU, teams like Western Michigan. They had to battle and they somehow got out of every single one of those games. I just see how San Jose State was finally put to a test against Boise State in their conference championship, and although they were underdogs by a full touchdown, going out and winning that game outright by double digits is what I like to see. This line opened at San Jose State minus 6.5. Now it's up to 9.5, and I'm still going to rock with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ball State, I thought that game against Buffalo was more of a fluke than them being a good team.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, if we look at it in hindsight, isn't too hard of a team to stop on offense either.
No.
I mean, they're handing the ball off to Jarrett Patterson.
Right, you're going after one guy.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Good. Let's move on. My next game. So we've covered your San Jose State. I am going to do the Citrus Bowl. New Year's Day, noon on ABC. It's Auburn versus the number 14th ranked Northwestern. Northwestern is a 3-point favorite here. Over-under total is set at 43.5, and I got to go with the under. Auburn is playing their first game since basically they sacked their former head coach, now Gus Malzahn. And when a team goes into a bowl game with an interim coach, that it's his first game, the offense doesn't seem to click as well as they might have throughout the season, as you go week to week, being able to do it. And this offense for Auburn, I mean, they just haven't clicked all season, so I doubt they're going to be able to find it in this game against a very, very good Northwestern defense that actually took Ohio State to the limit in the Big Ten championship game. For Auburn, Bo Nix has been pretty average all season long. I mean, we talk about him all the time. And his offense has been stymied a few times. Stymied to the fact that they scored 7 points against Georgia, 13 against Alabama, 20 against Texas A&M. Now, I know when everyone sees that, they go, oh, those are SEC teams. And the SEC is the best conference in the country, so those teams are really good. It's tough to score points against them. I would have to say that I think Northwestern has been, they have been a very good team all season. They have one of the best defensive units in the country. They're top 5 in scoring defense, giving up 15.5 points per game. Top 15 in passing defense, only allowing 182.3 yards per game. And they're top 25 in total defense, 338 yards allowed per game. So Auburn, like I said, is not very proficient on offense. They're 87th in points scored. They only put up 25.7 points per game. And now I'm not saying that Northwestern has a good offense because, let's face it, they do not have that good of an offense. And I'm not saying that Auburn has had a bad defense because they don't have a bad defense. But Northwestern scoring 23.4 points per game, which is 98th, and Auburn's defense allowing 23.7 points per game, which is 35th, that kind of cancels out a little bit. So Northwestern is better at running the ball, which we know running the ball equals time control. And Auburn has a very solid defensive front, so I don't see there being a lot of scoring chances here. And the game is going to go under, and I possibly think that this game could stay under 40 points. The under is 4-0 in Northwestern's last 4 versus a team with a winning record, 4-0 in Auburn's last 4 following an against-the-spread win. We're going to take the under 43.5 in this one.
Yeah, I like it. I think Northwestern really did have to throw the whole kitchen sink at Ohio State to keep that game close. And they have the defense that could shut down Justin Fields. And so, I mean...
And we know that Bo Nix has been up and down. You don't know what you're going to get from Bo Nix.
How many picks did Fields throw, 2 in that game?
In that game, he threw 2.
Yeah, I'd be a pretty safe bet to think...
That they're going to be able to bottle up Bo Nix.
Yeah, so... All right. I'm going to take it down to Memphis, Tennessee for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. It'll be West Virginia versus Army, Thursday kickoff, 4 p.m. West Virginia's laying 7 here, over under 41. So far on the year, West Virginia's 5-4 in the Big 12. They had one non-conference game, but 6-3 against the spread. Army ended the season at 9-2, 7-4 against the spread, and I'm just glad that Army got a bowl game after getting initially snubbed. No team that goes 9-2 in a season should actually be snubbed from a bowl game. I didn't understand that, and then especially a military academy. So yeah, they've had a great season in the midst of everything going on this year, but they're still grossly one-dimensional. We know that all military academies and a few other schools in the country just run these triple option schemes. That's not necessarily going to work against West Virginia. West Virginia, outside of the last game against Iowa State, had probably arguably the best defense in the Big 12 this year. They shut down the run and the pass, and now they only have to focus on the run. Neil Brown, when he coached at Troy, coached against teams like Georgia Southern and teams like Georgia State that have, not Georgia State, Georgia Southern, who have these one-dimensional triple option offenses, so it's not like he's not familiar with it. On top of that, Army's only averaging 43 passing yards a game. So that's for their playbook, probably 2 or 3 receptions. WVU top 10 rushing defense in the nation. The Stills brothers on the D line have been a disruptive force for them all year long. And also, Army hasn't played a team with a real passing game since November 14th. Since that game, they've played Georgia Southern, triple option team, Navy, triple option team, and Air Force, triple option team. So 3 triple option teams back to back to back. They're going to be a little rusty having to defend the pass in this game. Last time they played a team with an actual passing game was Tulane, and they got blown out 38-12. Jarrett Deggy, quarterback for West Virginia, has been up and down this year. I still expect West Virginia to be able to edge this one out. I was looking at the total here. 41 seems just a little low for a West Virginia total, but I feel safer betting the West Virginia side. So give me WVU -7.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to do totals when it comes to Army, Navy, anything like that. Yeah. No matter how high-powered the West Virginia offense might be, I would rather say that West Virginia is going to win the game and cover. So
yeah, I might look for over there, but
maybe
official pick WVU -7.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's move on. The Armed Forces Bowl. This is New Year's Eve, noon on ESPN. It's got Tulsa, 2.5-point favorites against Mississippi State. Over-under is set at 47. I am playing another under here. But first of all, Mississippi State is 3-7. So I'm not going to do them any courtesy of getting too much into detail with this pick. The play is the under, and this is the reason why. Mississippi State, 106th in the country in scoring at 20.7 points per game, 128th in the country in giveaways at 2.6 a game. And although they put up 44 points against LSU early in the season, they're averaging 14 points per game over their last 8. I mean, I will say they do have a pretty decent passing game. It's ranked 16th in the nation, but their rushing attack is 127th. They get 36 yards of rushing per game. That's crazy. I think that Tulsa, they're going to see that. They'll be keying in on the pass, and honestly, why wouldn't you? Tulsa's defense is pretty good, and they went toe-to-toe with Cincinnati last week. They do rank 22nd against the pass and 23rd in points allowed. They give up 20.8 points per game. And the game they lost to Cincinnati was the second highest scoring game against their defense. They gave up 27 points in that one. So to recap really fast, Mississippi State cannot score on offense. Tulsa does not allow points on defense. Now, Tulsa's offense is nothing to write home about. They're 74th in the country in scoring. They only put up 27.3 a game. But the key here is that Tulsa is a ball control team. And a team that controls the ball, that doesn't put up a lot of points or allow a lot of points, is screaming for the under. So, altogether, Mississippi State, very bad on offense. Tulsa, very good on defense. Supposed to be in the low 40s. Rain, wind in Fort Worth, Texas, where the game is being played. That can mean that running the ball is going to be a focal point. It will control the tempo. The under's 8-0 in Tulsa's last 8 non-conference games. 7-2 in Mississippi State's last 9 overall. Easy pick, under 47 for Tulsa, Mississippi State.
Awesome. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to rock with Tulsa that game.
Yeah, you just pick and move on in that game. There's nothing else.
State, dude.
They shouldn't be there, but oh well. All
right. We're going to talk to Chick-fil-A, my favorite restaurant, fast food joint, Peach Bowl. Friday, January 1st, 12 p.m. kickoff in Atlanta, Georgia. Not the Georgia Dome. The Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Georgia versus Cincinnati. Georgia -7, over under 50. So far this year, Georgia's been 7-2, 4-5 against the spread, while Cincinnati's given us an undefeated year, earning them a New Year's Six bowl. They've been 5-4 against the spread. And Cincinnati's going to be motivated going into this game. They were the AAC champs. They feel like they've been snubbed for the playoffs, even though in reality they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't.
But that's little chalk. That's bulletin board material for them going forward. So they'll be headed in this game with something to prove. When I look at both of these teams, one similarity stands out like a sore thumb, and that's how dominant these defenses have been all year. They've been shut down and have performed pretty consistently all season. And since even going against high-powered passing games, they've been able to suppress a lot of scores. So Georgia's only allowed 19.9 points per game this year, while Cincy's allowed 16 points per game this year. And that's included playing teams like UCF, SMU. So that sticks out really well to me. Georgia's only allowing 69.3 rushing yards per game. So they'll have to force Ritter, Cincinnati's quarterback, to throw. This worries me since Cincy doesn't have a standout threat at wideout. Their leading receiver this year is actually tight end Josh Wiley, and he's got 318 yards and 5 touchdowns, and that's their leading weapon through the air. Georgia's offense is nothing to brag about either. They've waited a little too long to let JT Daniels get in that starting spot. They have improved since then, but we look and we see Georgia doesn't like playing in these games. Georgia doesn't play for a New Year's Six bowl. They play for a playoff spot. This is kind of a letdown spot for Georgia, I see. I still can't get that taste out of my mouth a couple of years ago when they lost to Texas in their bowl season. Never saw that coming until I was talking to one of my friends earlier today. Before that game, Bevo, the bull, charged the bulldog.
Yeah, I remember that.
That should have been. I was on Georgia that game. I should have switched right there. But I don't see Georgia really getting up to play this game, and I don't really see Cincy's offense performing well against a step up in competition. I'm not really going to look at a side here. I'm going to go under 51 for this game.
Under 51?
Yeah, I actually said the total was 50. We're recording a day later than this research, so it's up to 51. I'm going to take the extra point.
What's the spread?
7. Georgia -7.
Georgia -7?
Yeah, I mean,
I like your pick.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to end up going with Cincinnati +7.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to play the under.
Yeah.
That's a good, solid pick.
You have 2 shutdown defenses, and they're going to force a dual threat quarterback to throw the whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going under here.
Good. All right. So we're moving into the marquee games. I'm going to go ahead and take care of the Outback Bowl for us. This is 2nd of January, 12:30 kick on ABC. Ole Miss against Indiana. Indiana's an 8.5-point favorite. Over/under is 65.5. And finally, I have a game where I can play the spread. We all know that Indiana was one of the most, if not the most surprising team in this crazy season. They were actually one of the best teams when it came to covering the spread as well. They were 7-0 against the spread this year, and that's the only team with a perfect spread record. They covered their only loss against Ohio State. That game, they were 21-point underdogs, only lost by 7. They covered the 12-point underdog label in their last game against Wisconsin, which they won without their star quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., and they covered and won in underdog games against Penn State and Michigan. Indiana, we know, is going to be without Penix, but Jack Tuttle has shown that he is capable of leading this offense in his absence. Tuttle made the start against Wisconsin, and we know Wisconsin is a good team year in and year out. At the time, Wisconsin was ranked 16. Tuttle came in, threw a couple touchdowns, which were the only touchdowns in the game, and they ended up winning 14-6. Not to mention, he's going to have the help of the Big Ten wide receiver of the year, Ty Freifogel. I mean, he's had a great season. 34 catches for 687 and seven touchdowns. So that's 20 yards a catch and averaging a touchdown a game. But the offense is not as explosive as it was with Penix. This is where the defense for Indiana will come into the mix. And this defense is legit. They've allowed 21 or fewer points in 6 of their 7 games and are holding opponents to 19.4 points per game, which is 19th in the country in that category. So we've talked about Indiana. Let's talk about this 4-5 SEC team that found their way into a bowl game. The only reason this spread is not double digits is because Ole Miss is in the SEC. Ole Miss is a bad defensive team. They cannot stop other teams from scoring. They're 127th against the pass, 104th against the run, and 103rd in points allowed. They've given up 40 or more points in 4 games this season and are averaging a total of 40.3 allowed. Their offense can put up a lot of points, 13th in the nation, 40.7 a game, but their defense does them no favors, and they allow the points to go right back to the opposing team. And Ole Miss is going to have to play against this very good Hoosier defense. Ole Miss is also going to be without their top wide receiver. Not just one, top wide receivers, Elijah Moore and Kenny Yeboah. Yeboah?
Yeboah.
Yeah, Yeboah. They've both opted out. So when a good defense goes against a depleted offense, usually that defense is going to thrive. Ole Miss is 0-2 against ranked opponents this season. Indiana is 6-0 against the spread following an against the spread win. I'm playing Indiana minus 8.5 here.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take the same thing. Ole Miss has shown that they're a one-sided team. Defense sucks, no question about that. And I've bet on them multiple times this year where the opponents figured out their offense.
Yeah.
There's a good possibility that happens here with an Indiana defense that made Ohio State struggle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm not worried about Indiana's backup. He pulled through against Wisconsin. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
There we go.
All right. I'm going to take it down to Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm going to spend about 1 total minute on this game. One deserving team, another undeserving team. I don't like losing teams with losing records in bowl games. This is going to be the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Pretty good bowl game, but 2 not-so-good teams here. NC State is hosting Kentucky. Over-under's 50.5. Kentucky's favored by 2.5 points. Saturday kickoff, 12 p.m. in Jacksonville again. NC State this year, 8-3 with 7-4 against the spread, while Kentucky's 4-6 with 4-5-1 against the spread. Plain and simple, this game sucks. I don't even want to give out this game of the pod, but since we're doing every bowl game, I guess I'll give it out. Quickly, though, UK is just a team with no passing game. We've discussed that this year. They were kind of Virginia Tech-esque, where they couldn't necessarily find an identity on offense, and they were all over the board every week. And one thing I've noticed is they don't score against teams with decent defenses. They played Alabama this year, did nothing. A few other games in the SEC did nothing. I wouldn't call NC State's defense decent, but they're familiar with playing against good offenses. They played Miami, Liberty, and UNC this year. Kentucky's can't compare to those teams' offense in any way. NC State also averages 31 points a game, while Kentucky's averaging 21 points per game. I know they said, defense wins championships, but I got to go with the team that I know can move the ball here, and that's NC State. So low confidence pick, but I'm going to take NC State plus the 2.5.
All right, enough said.
Yep, good.
We don't need
Moving
to talk
on.
about it anymore. Okay, Orange Bowl, January 2nd, 8 p.m. ESPN. It's number 5 Texas A&M, 7.5-point favorites against number 13 North Carolina. The total is 65.5. So this game could either be an over or an Aggie cover, and I'm really not sure which one I want to play. Both teams have great offenses that can score basically at will. But when I looked more at this game, I realized the only logical play was probably the total and taking the over. North Carolina scores a lot of points. I mean, a lot of points. They average 43 a game, and quarterback Sam Howell is the main reason why. He's thrown for over 3,300 yards and 27 touchdowns this year. Now, they are facing an Aggie defense that has allowed only 21 points per game. But the Tar Heels defense has given up 28.4 points per game, while A&M is averaging 32 scored a game. It's going to be a game of back and forth offensive punches, and the reason that we have to play the total is because of what is going on with North Carolina. They will be without running backs Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, as well as leading receiver Diami Brown. Their leading tackler is also not going to be playing in this game, Chaz Surratt. All these players opted out of the Orange Bowl to prepare for the NFL Draft.
The Orange Bowl.
The Orange Bowl.
Damn.
To prepare for the draft. But now that I think about it, that's not really going to help the total. It's going to help Texas A&M minus 7.5. So I'm kind of torn. I mean, the game opened at -5 for A&M, and it's only moved to 7.5 for A&M.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say if you want to play the total, I'd say the over's the play. Both teams can score points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about Sam Howell, but we know they could both
so,
put up.
With that being said, with the players not playing, I'm changing my podcast pick to Texas A&M minus 7.5.
Good.
Here.
I was gonna also add on that even with UNC losing a bunch of players and demotivating their side, Kellen Mond, this is his real last shot to show that he can be an NFL quarterback. So he's going into this game with a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be ready to sling it. And Texas A&M's defense isn't too bad.
That's exactly what I put. I said the fact North Carolina is going to be without their two best running backs, a leading wide receiver, and losing their top tackler on defense. I mean, that team cannot be excited. And Kellen Mond he's going to. Basically, this is a resume builder for Kellen Mond.
Yes.
It's going to open up the game. 32. They score 32 a game. I mean, you have to go with a team that almost made it into the playoff. They have that chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, and can he show up in the big game?
Yep.
He never shows up against Alabama.
So let's see.
Yeah.
A&M, real quick, A&M 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 versus the ACC. 11-2 against the spread in their last 13 non-conference games, while UNC is 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 following a straight-up win, and 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 following an against the spread win. You can play the over, but the official pick for us right now is Texas A&M minus 7.5.
Yep. Awesome. All right. I'm going to take it down to the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona, January 2nd kickoff, 4 p.m. Oregon versus Iowa State. Over under 57.5. Iowa State minus 4. So Oregon this year is 4-2, 3-3 against the spread. Iowa State's been 8-3, pretty impressive. 6-5 against the spread. This is another case of one team riding high while another team is riding low. Oregon swiped the Pac-12 championship from USC. Oregon wasn't even supposed to be in the Pac-12 championship, and they made the most of what was given to them. Life gave them lemons. They popped champagne, so good for them. They got to a New Year's Six Bowl off of a 4-2 record and a 3-2 regular season record. Iowa State had their Big 12 championship swiped from them after already beating Oklahoma earlier this year. So they probably aren't as motivated as they should be, but also they always knew that they weren't going to get into the playoff. So it's not like they were missing out on a playoff spot by losing that game. This is hard to handicap because Oregon's been an anomaly all year. They barely beat USC. They lost to a not-so-good Oregon State team. They lost to a Cal team. And then they beat USC, who probably just really isn't that good after they almost lost to Arizona State week 1 and had to come back in the last 2 minutes. It's just hard to find a beat with this team. But what we do know, we know what Iowa State has. And Iowa State has a high productive offense, along with a pretty good defense for a Big 12 school. So, simply, this game's just going to come down to the play of Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. Purdy this year, future NFL quarterback, former commit to Alabama. He's thrown for 2,594 yards and 18 touchdowns, along with 9 interceptions. And Breece Hall has rushed for 1,436 yards and 19 touchdowns this year. This offense runs through these two players. And good news for Iowa State fans, Oregon's given up 160 yards per game on the ground this year. So if I just see if Purdy can play like we know Brock Purdy can play, along with being complemented by Breece Hall, who should have a huge game, I'll lay the 4 with Iowa State here.
Yep. Good call there. All right. We've made it. Semifinal games. All right. I have to go with Ohio State's game, so I left you with the great Bama Notre Dame
I'm
matchup.
interested to see what you say, though. So
Sorry about that. All right. The second semifinal game on New Year's Day. It's the Sugar Bowl. 8 p.m. kick, ESPN. We know Kirk Herbstreit has COVID. He had to go ahead and tweet about it, so he's going to be calling the game from home.
his son also plays for Clemson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You would have never known that if you listened to the game last year. Because Kirk Herbstreit's one of the worst Ohio State alumni of all time.
Really?
He does not talk good about Ohio State ever.
I haven't noticed that, but that's not Kazoman. I'm
Try
not
it.
a Buckeye, so
Think about it. Next time you hear Herbstreit calling a Buckeye game, he does not.
his loyalty's with Dabo
Oh.
now.
His loyalty's anywhere but Columbus.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ohio State, Clemson. Clemson 7.5-point favorites. Total is 66.5. It's the rematch to last year's basically ref show game.
Okay, wait. Before we go to the ref show game, although the refs played a crucial part in the outcome of that game, Ohio State still gave up a 95-yard drive in the fourth quarter.
Ohio State also had a scoop and score touchdown called back and a targeting call on a 6-foot-plus quarterback who ducked his head to get hit by a 5'10" defensive back.
Targeting call was bullshit.
Let's go ahead and say that the refs had
they
a
still
lot
gave
to
up a
play in that game.
95-yard drive.
It doesn't matter.
But
the refs took points off the board.
The scoop and score was irreversible no matter what way that was called. If that was called a scoop and score, it would have stayed a scoop and score. If it was, it stayed the way it was called on the field.
Why didn't they? Yeah, but they should have let him play on. I mean, that's a catch.
Yeah.
He had 5 feet on the ground. He was
He had 5 feet
running,
on the
going
ground.
to tuck the ball in, and then he fumbled it.
Yeah.
But
Let's get into it.
all right, I got to cool down after that. All right, as much as I want Ohio State to win this game, I just can't back them. It's the worst feeling I have as a Buckeye fan. Because this feels like that 2002 national championship versus Miami, where basically all Buckeye fans had that feeling like we have no shot at winning this game. Even with Dabo giving the Buckeyes basically the best bulletin board material you could possibly give a team
Oh my
by
gosh,
saying
he
he
hasn't
voted
shut
for
up all week.
being 11th in the coaches poll, and then Justin Fields saying, he's preparing for this game like he has never prepared for a bigger game in his entire life. It still doesn't seem to matter to me because I've watched this Buckeye team all season, and that glaring issue is on defense. Even though the Buckeyes have the conference's top voted defensive back in Shaun Wade, which I don't know how that happened. I will never understand how he's the top defensive back in the conference. He has not played well all
Preseason
season.
hype.
That's all it is.
His dad flew to Kevin Warren's office.
Oh, yeah.
I would vote him just because of that.
So you have that. You have the linebackers are just inexperienced, too slow, and they don't have that rushing defensive end like they had with both Bozas and Chase Young. They'll need to wait one more season to fill that void. They got a recruit coming in who's going to be the next best defensive end rushing prospect. We'll see that next year.
Yep.
But we know that Clemson is a fine-tuned offensive machine with basically number 1 overall pick Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and Travis Etienne running the ball. And if Lawrence is not going to be flustered with Chase Young in his kitchen all game, he's going to be able to sit back in the pocket and torch the Buckeye defense. So we know Clemson seemingly should be able to score on just about every possession. But what about the flip side? Let's not forget, Justin Fields and the Buckeyes do possess a very high-powered offense. This is a team that's 8th in scoring in the nation with 42.5 points per game, 5th on the ground with 275 yards rushing per game. And Trey Sermon decided he was going to make his mark on the season in that Big Ten title game by breaking records, running for 331 yards. And that put the Clemson defense on notice. The offense is there. They can score, which is what I think will happen because they've scored at least 38 in 5 of their last 6 and at least 42 in 3 of their last 4. But I cannot pick against my Buckeyes. I mean, come on. I would never pick against the Buckeyes. The only way I see the Buckeyes winning this game is in a high-scoring match, which is why I'm going to take the over here. Dabo fueled the fire with his comments and seemed to have unlocked a different animal in Justin Fields. The Buckeyes' defense is not as strong as they were last year when Lawrence and the Tigers put up 29. Expect them to score at least 2 more touchdowns than that total from last year, so that's going to be 43. The Buckeyes will keep up offensively, so 43 times 2 is more than 66.5. I don't have to say who's going to win, but based on that comment, I think you know that I'm pulling for my Buckeyes, but either way, the play in this game is over 66.5.
Man.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm telling you, Ohio State's defense is not good enough to stop Clemson from scoring, but the Ohio State offense can score.
I know,
and they're gonna have Olave back, who missed the Big Ten championship, and all of his plethora of receivers. That and Trey Sermon coming off a big game. It could be
Sermon's
very, very high
they're
scoring.
in the playoff right now.
Yep.
If they start as slow as they did against Northwestern, there's no chance. There's no chance that they win.
That's why I can't pick a winner there.
Yeah.
But I gotta play. I want to play the total because it's going to be high scoring.
Yeah.
So.
And Dabo just not being able to shut up all this week is just adding on to the fact that this is already a revenge game for Ryan Day. I mean, Ryan Day, even after the game last year, was saying that, man, that the refs did play a part in that game. So, I mean, and he's ready to go. They just can't come out as slow. I mean, I truly think that Clemson is the only team in the country right now that could have a chance at beating Alabama, but Ohio State knows this team. I probably won't take a side.
Yeah, they're just. It's not the same Ohio State as last year,
right? But
defense,
man, Justin Fields, I think is going to show up early.
I think it'll be a better game than what people think it's going to be.
Right, everybody's a little bit down on Ohio State too, just with what happened in the Big Ten championship. So
right,
all right, for the last game of the podcast, I got the Rose Bowl, which also is serving as a college football semi for Notre Dame and Alabama. Friday, January 1st, kickoff at 4 p.m. out of Arlington, Texas. 65.5 is the over-under. Alabama minus 19.5 is the line. Largest line in college football playoff history. So far this year, Notre Dame is 10-1, 5-6 against the spread, while Alabama has been a great team, 11-0, 8-3 against the spread. Notre Dame's fresh off of losing their conference championship, where they finally showed their true colors when they played a real team with talent, with the full starting lineup. We've been critiquing them all year about how much we don't like Notre Dame, and it's no jab at your fans, but you guys have no reason to be in this playoff after.
Zero.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have played Trevor Lawrence the first time around and would have lost twice to them in this year, Texas A&M would be there.
Yep.
So Texas A&M, be mad at Trevor Lawrence for missing the game. Which also, looking back, great power move by Dabo to just already say, Trevor isn't playing next week. Do you remember when he tested positive before BC? After the game, Dabo came out and was like, "Yeah, Trevor's out next week too." I don't want to say that there was a little conspiracy behind that, but I think there was.
Could be.
Yeah. So Alabama's offense is peaking now at the perfect time. They've scored 50 in 3 straight games, or over 50. But last week against Florida, although it was understandable, their defense did show a lot of vulnerabilities, and they showed that they're not an unstoppable team. Last week kind of confirmed to me that Alabama does have a chance of losing the national championship, no matter what who they play. And I do think Alabama's going to win this game. I'm just worried that 19.5 points is too much, especially in a college football playoff game. This is the largest spread ever. Notre Dame has a really strong rushing attack. Kyron Williams, freshman running back for Notre Dame, has rushed for over 1,000 yards this year and has 12 touchdowns on the ground. And Ian Book at quarterback, although I don't think he's anything super special, he is the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. He is 30-4 in his career. He's shown up in the big moments. And also, Notre Dame is the only team in the country that can hang with Alabama in the trenches. I mean, they have one of the biggest offensive lines in the country. They're going to be able to stop those big boys on the Crimson Tide defense. Pair that with an experienced quarterback and an offense that utilizes both tight ends as a receiving threat with a defense that's been consistent all year, I think ND is a little bit undervalued here because the ACC championship blowout. I'm going to go with Notre Dame plus 19.5, even though it's just a gross, disgusting pick. I think it's the right side. So, yeah. I've just preached about how much I hate Notre Dame all year, and in their last game of the season, I'm going to take them. So that's where we're at. I love Alabama. They're unstoppable, man. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith.
3 touchdowns.
Just
either.
3 touchdowns in a.
What's the total?
Total's 65.5. So it's not like Vegas doesn't think Notre Dame can put up at least 3 touchdowns. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking. I might take the.
But I think that's a little high. The reason that I'm more comfortable taking Notre Dame because that total's so high.
Okay.
I already think that total's super high. I mean, even though Alabama can go for 50 every game, but I just think that shows that Notre Dame can score, and if they can score, I think they can stay within 3 touchdowns.
There it is. All right. Well, there we go. We got the second half bowl picks for you. Next week, we are going to know who is playing for the college football championship. We will break down that game pretty extensively, give you our pick. Each of us will give you our pick for that game, whether it be together or fighting. And we will also recap how the season went and close out a unprecedented 2020 college football season.
Yeah, an inaugural podcast season.
Inaugural. I can't say the word, but Big Country can. All right, let's go over our cards then. I had the under 47 in Tulsa, Mississippi State. That's the Armed Forces Bowl. I had the under 43.5 in the Citrus Bowl between Auburn and Northwestern. The Outback Bowl between Ole Miss and Indiana, I had Indiana minus 8.5. Orange Bowl, Texas A&M against North Carolina, I had Texas A&M minus 7.5. And the Sugar Bowl, the college football playoff semifinal between Ohio State and Clemson, took the over 66.5.
Awesome. All right, Big Country, second half of bowl season card. For the Arizona Bowl, I got San Jose State minus 9.5. For the Liberty Bowl, I got West Virginia minus 7. For the Chick-fil-A Bowl, Peach Bowl, I got Georgia, Cincinnati under 51. For the bowl that nobody cares about, Gator Bowl, I got NC State plus 2.5. For the Fiesta Bowl, I got Iowa State minus 4. And for the Rose Bowl, I got Notre Dame plus 19.5.
There we go. All right. So we will. I mean, those all sound like winners to me.
Yeah, I think
we come out of this
card.
looking pretty well thought through bowl season. That's it. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you rate. 5 stars.
Review,
comment, all that
subscribe,
stuff.
Share.
Follow us on Twitter at AccountantBets.
Follow me at Big Country Bets.
Follow the podcast at CF Payoff Pod. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, really. But be sure to share us, like it, subscribe, leave us those reviews, man. It helps build the brand and get our voices out to other people who are looking to win some money on some college football. But that's it for me. You got anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Well, happy holidays, happy New Year, happy football, happy betting.